baby, how you been? You're as beautiful as ever.
Hello survivors and welcome to Survivor's Guild, the only channel that determines your odds of surviving 2009's strung out sequel, Evil Bong 2, King Bong. So stay tuned till the end for your survival stats. I'm your sharp-dressed slasher turned on-location researcher, Ghostfake. Now I hope you like getting rolled up into a huge joint, because this movie is getting spoiled. Evil Bong 2, directed by Charles Band and written by Charles Band and Dominic Muir, starring Brett Chukerman, Mitch Eakins, John Patrick Jordan, Brian Lloyd, Amy Paffrath, and Sonny Carl Davis, Evil Bong 2 is about the roommates from Evil Bong 1 as they struggle with the side effects from smoking from the Evil Bong, who find out that behind EB there is a bigger, badder Bong. We open up to Larnell pacing himself around his apartment when there is a knock at the door. It turns out to be Alistair, well, a version of him anyway.
I almost didn't recognize you.
And Larnell invites the imposter to come in to talk to him. We here find out that Larnell started going back to school and then got kicked out when his renewed paranoia caused him to set fire to the administration's building. And we also find out that Larnell called Alistair to come over to talk to him about Bachman, who is his roommate, because he's worried that there is something wrong with him.
Dude, it wasn't the weed, it was the bong. That evil bong, Al.
Just then, Bachman returns home and breaks the news that he's been fired from his job. He greets Alistair and Larnell points out the fact that he can't remember anything.
What problem?
Dude, the one that's been you up for the past week.
I'm not recalling.
More than usual, but that's only part of the problem. The other part is the fact that he randomly passes out all the time. Alistair believes it to be narcolepsy, and Larnell says that he thinks it's something else, because he's not the only one, and those aren't the only symptoms. Just then, Brett shows up and reveals that he's put on several dozen pounds. Luann comes in too, and is very paranoid about being seen with Brett because of his size.
He is like a fat-ass, flabby whale, okay?
Al mentions that it's been a bit since he's seen him, but not enough time for him to put on that much weight, and Brett tells him that he doesn't know why, but he just can't stop eating.
Wait, what's the green stuff?
Probably mold, man. It's been sitting a while.
I can work with that.
After pondering for a bit, Al puts together that the group is suffering the exaggerated side effects of smoking pot, with each of them having their own symptoms, before finding out that Larnell's symptoms are lowered inhibitions and an uncontrollable libido.
Couple weeks, but I think it's getting worse.
They realize that smoking from the Evil Bong has caused this and that they need to find out more about EB to put an end to the side effects. They contact the delivery service to find out what they know about the Bong. Rabbit shows up at the apartment and they grill him on the Bong that he delivered in the last movie. And he details a conversation that he had with the woman, Jimbo's wife, about where the Bong came from. And the group heads to the Amazon to investigate the Bong's origin.
In order to cure your afflictions, we need to research the Bong's origins.
Early in their investigation, they stumble upon a hut, before they stumble upon the hut's owner, Felicity, who tells them that her and her partner are continuing her father's work, who passed away a short time ago, retroacting him into our meat bank at deposit number 1.
My father and I, well, my dad passed away a few months ago.
And she invites them into her hut to discuss why they are there. They tell her the story of the Evil Bong, and Felicity tells them that she might be able to help them if she could find out what it looked like. And Larnell surprises them by breaking out the broken pieces of EB's face that no one knew that he held onto. Felicity explains that it appears to be a craft from a mythical tribe that has long been rumored to inhabit the area, called the Poontang tribe.
Yes, who is this mysterious tribe?
The Poontang tribe.
Yep. We're serious. They believe she's joking, but she explains to them that it's not a joke, and that they just haven't yet been able to prove the tribe's existence, and to give her a few hours and she might be able to help them after all. Sometime later, as Rabbit and Larnell are wandering around, they stumble upon a large amount of weed laying under a tarp, and it's revealed that this weed belongs to Cyril, Larnell's grandpa, who is no longer confined to a wheelchair, and he explains that these drugs are part of his research, and it's revealed that he is Felicity's partner that she has been working with, and that he wants them gone by sundown. Felicity takes them back to her hut to explain that her dad was researching a strain of marijuana that only grows in the Amazon, and that when her dad died, his old friend Cyril stepped up to fund the research. Felicity believes that this strain has miraculous curative properties, and that it's even to thank for Cyril not being in a wheelchair anymore. Rabbit warns her that it looks like Cyril is planning to abscond with the product as it appears to be packaged to move. Felicity wants to use Larnell, Brett, and Bachman as test subjects for the medicinal properties of the drug, but is concerned that Cyril won't let them. But Rabbit reveals that he snuck a package, and when they place the package next to EB, it seems to revive her. So for the time being, Larnell puts EB back in the sack.
Allow me.
Oh, get Get your hands off me!
The group lights up and Felicity asks to show EB to Cyril. Larnell doesn't think it's a good idea and believes that Cyril can't be trusted, but Felicity talks him into it. But when she goes to show him, she discovers that Cyril is on the phone trying to sell the product.
That's not enough. That buyer of yours is going to have to do a lot better than that.
And she calls him out on it. He explains that the second they try to push it as medicine, Big Pharma will shut them down, which is absolutely true. But he then explains that though she is a medical student and required to care, he is not, and is going to make money off of it because he can.
Well, I'm not a doctor, I'm a capitalist.
Just then, Cyril hears EB talking and takes the shards from Felicity. He says the design reminds him of the ruins that Felicity's father showed them, and that EB is no doubt the handiwork of the Poontang tribe. And when Felicity heads back to the hut, EB tells Cyril that she'll help him sell the weed, but first wants him to use it to put her back together. Back at the hut, Larnell, Bachman, and Brett nap while Felicity awaits the results of their experiment. When Rabbit decides that he wants to go for a little walk, we cut over to Cyril, who has somehow used the weed to repair EB, when Rabbit wanders up to them and offers to be Cyril's drug delivery service.
Think about it. Who's gonna oversee your shipments, your deliveries?
Cut back over to the hut, where we find out that Felicity's little experiment worked, and that the boys are back to normal. Cut back to Cyril, EB, and Rabbit, who get snuck up on by the Poontang tribe, which of course is a tribe of topless women, because it's a full moon movie, who then kidnap Rabbit and EB. Back at the hut, Felicity asks Larnell not to head back to the States now that the experiment is over. But before they can further flirt, Cyril gets to the dwelling and tells them about the tribe and EB and Rabbit, and the group argue about whether or not to go save them, and ultimately decide to.
Could be fun.
Cut over to EB, where we get introduced to King Bong, an ex-lover of EB, and a more powerful Bong than EB, to whom the tribe brings Rabbit as well. The tribe forces, well, more like offers, for Rabbit to smoke from King Bong, and his entire being is transported to Bong World. Later, our heroes arrive to save Rabbit, and they negotiate his release, when Alistair and Felicity realize that King Bong is far more powerful than EB, and instead of just transferring the soul, he can transport the complete physical being to Bong World.
What if this one's more powerful?
And can transport the entire physical being.
And that the only way to save Rabbit is to smoke from King Bong.
That's bogus!
Cracker, who the f you calling bogus?
And EB tells them that once they're in there, they must destroy his symbol of power to destroy King Bong, and be released, much to the chagrin of King Bong. We here learn that EB is jealous of King Bong's Poontang tribe, and wants to see him get what's coming to him, and is willing to help the group to make it happen. One by one, the group smokes from King Bong and is transported to Bong World.
Ha ha!
Whoa! Hocus pocus!
Brett and Bachman find King Bong in his true form, before being seduced by two from the tribe, while Alistair finds Rabbit, who is being primed by another two from the tribe. One of the Poontang dispose of Alistair, having already tied up Brett and Bachman.
Dude, we're tied up. Awesome.
And the girls bring out Rabbit to be sacrificed to King Bong.
It won't hurt. Not much anyway.
Back in the real world, Larnell tells Felicity to stay in the real world in case things go south, before he kisses her and smokes his way into Bong World. He arrives in Bong World and wakes up Alistair, and the two of them head to save Rabbit. Cut over to the altar where the Poontang tribe is rolling Rabbit into a giant blunt.
They're turning him into a giant movie!
And while Rabbit prays for God to deliver him, Larnell and Alistair look for a way to free him, and take notice of a glowing medallion around King Bong's neck, which they take to be the symbol of his power, which he then uses to shrink Reefer Rabbit into a more manageable size. And Alistair gets to work untying Brett and Bachman. Alistair grabs the joint from the Poontang, and Brett and Bachman restrain the others while Larnell grabs the medallion and destroys it, destroying King Bong and sending them back to the real world. The group decides that now that it is all over, they will head back home, but Larnell decides to stay behind and continue with Felicity in her research, and they walk into the sunset, leaving EB in the depths of the Amazon. Cut back stateside, where Alistair and Bachman are discussing adulting, when Luann shows up and makes amends with Brett, now that he's skinny, when there is yet another knock at the door.
Ah, the knocking must signify the arrival of yet another character.
In walks Rabbit, who has turned his life around to God in exchange for delivering him from becoming a roach.
So no more deliveries.
I'm only delivering souls now, brother.
But in spite of his newfound faith, he will still smoke variations of the Lord's creation, and the movie ends. Now let's take a look at our main characters and the death that surrounds them to determine your odds of surviving this movie. We start off our meat bank deposits with Felicity's father, wrapping up our meat bank deposits at deposit number 1, into the meat bank. Now let's take a look at our survivors. We've got Larnell, Felicity, Alistair, Bachman, Brett, Luann, Cyril, and Rabbit, which means that out of a total of 9 characters, only 8 of them survive, giving you an 88.8% chance of surviving this movie. Given those odds, how would you overcome the crippling side effects of smoking from the evil bong? Let me know in the comments below. And if this is your first time on my channel, go ahead and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of my future videos. And a huge thanks to our patrons for covering our flight to the Amazon. Your support truly means the world to me, so thank you. And as always guys, thanks and don't die.